Yes. Yes. So I just made it really far in advance. So whatever one you decide to do, let me know as soon as you can. Yeah, I actually needed to have emailed them like 2 days ago, but I'm going to email them now, and I'll just pick one for you. Because chances are they've not looked at it.
And you'll be here tomorrow too, or no?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Because you may have to somewhere also.
That's okay.
Because I know Marshall's not here and Tom's not here.
Oh yeah, of course, Karen. I'll try to get to you this week, okay? Oh, actually, I was hoping to watch Marshall because I need to do it the following week for WTBA Shabbat.
He's not going to be here though, sadly.
Okay. All right, that's all right. I always think I don't know any of it. Surprise, I don't know it.
We on?
Run.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here on this cold, blustery Bay Area night. It's a little cold in here because we are still keeping the door open, but we're just pleased that most of us feel less at risk than we ever have. We are continuing our mask policy indoors for now, but anyway, great to have you here. And yes, welcome back to me as well. I was in Israel for the last couple of weeks, as many of you know, and it was as fantastic as I hoped it would be. It really was. I feel very blessed to have been able to go. And you'll hear all about it tomorrow, which I know many of you who are here tonight will not be here tomorrow, but you can watch it, or if you want, or not. Anyway, the come would be even better, but Yedid Nefesh, page 1. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman, Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman, Mishal Abdecha El Retzonecha Mishal Abdecha Ya la 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 El Retzonecha Yarutz Abdecha Kemo to turn to Yismachu Hashemayim, let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. So we're going to go all the way to page, I think that's on page 6. Thank you, I passed it. And I want to also thank Jacqueline Paulchik and Marshall Langfeld for leading our Friday night services in my absence, and Josh Mailman for, he's here tonight also, but making sure that everything went out. Because other than me, right now there's really no backup. So did it all himself. Thank you. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tageh ha'aretz, Yiramayim, 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 Umelo, Yiramayim, 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 Umelo. Light is sown for the righteous, page 8. Or Zarua. Or Zarua. Or Yisrael Simcha, or Zarua, Latzadik, or Yisrael Simcha, or Zarua, Latzadik, or Yisrael Simcha, or Yisrael Simcha, or Zarua, Latzadik, or Yisrael Simcha, or Yisrael Simcha. Page 12. Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romenu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romenu. Romenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. More the David, page 13. Mizmor David, Adon Adonai Beni, Adon Adonai, Kavod Ba'ozai, Adon Adonai, Ke'evot Shelo Ishtachavu Adonai ve'Adon Kodesh, Kol Adonai, Amayim Pe'al Kavod Yirim. Adonai, Amayim Rabim, Kol Adonai, Ba'koach, Kol Adonai, Ve'echadar, Kol Adonai, Shover Arazim, Shaver Adonai, Le'arzei Almanon, Vayavkirem kemo Egel, Lebanon, Ve'esirion, Kemo Ben Re'enim, Adonai, Oter Rabon Esh, Adonai, Yavim Mibal, Lahir Adonai, Yibal Kadesh, Adonai, Yechol El Ayalot, Yechesov, Ye'arot, U'echalot, Lo Omer Kavod, Adonai, Lama Abu Yashavai Yishev Adonai, Melech Le'olam, Adonai Yos, Alei Amo Yiten Adonai, Yivarech et Amo V'Shalom. Hey, yai, yai, nai, 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 yai, nai, 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 yai, nai, 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 yai, nai, 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 Chadodi, page 15. Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 leshabbat, lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 leshabbat, lekabela. Shamor vezachor vetikbor echad, nishviyanu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet ve'rikilah. Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, lekabela. Likrat Shabbat, Shabbat Chila. Lechadoti likrat kalai yalalai 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 Leshabbat Mekabela Lechadoti likrat kalai yalalai 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 Leshabbat Mekabela. Bottom of 17. Yamin Sport Tiproti Ve'en Adonai Taritzi Al-Yadi Ishbetati Ve'nismecha Ve'nagila Lechadoti Rikrat Kalai Yalai 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 Ve'shabbat Nekabela Lechadoti Rikrat Kalai Yalai 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 Ve'shabbat Nekabela. Rise and face the entrance. Boi v'shalom, ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha, u'tzor kola, toch emunei, am segula, boi kala, v'chadoti likrat kalai yalai 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 v'shabbat nekavela v'chadoti likrat kalai yalai 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 v'shabbat nekavela v'chadoti likrat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. And we say to any mourners in our midst, may God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And we may be seated on page 19, the Psalm for Shabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בנו. ולזמר לשמך עליון. We continue silently. Tzadik tamar yifrach kerez bavanon יזכה שתונים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינובון בשיבה גשמים ורעננים יהיו Adonai tzuri velo vatabo Adonai malach yot lavesh Adonai azita zarafti kon tevel ba'alti mod nachon kisacha me'az b'lamata sunerot Adonai nasunerot kolam yisunerot toch yam mikolot ma'im מים רבים אדירים משברי ים אדיר במרום אדוני Nefesh Adonai Leorech Yamin. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed. May be seated. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv HaRabbanim. Chai v'kayam tamid yimloch le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Ha'ma'ariv HaRabbanim. Ahavat Olam Be'Yisrael. Page 25 for the Shema. I didn't ask in advance, but Garrett and Tate, how about you guys want to lead? Not Garrett and Tate, sorry, Ezra and Tate. Do you want to lead Shema on Ve'ahavta? That's a big fat no from the older one. How about the younger one? All right, he's ready. He's usually volunteering in class to lead, I can tell you that. Well, Ezra. All right, Tate, one of these times. Exactly, sometime before 7th grade. All right, here we go. He doesn't really know the Ve'ahavta part, but a little bit, so I'll do it with you.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvavecha hayom levavecha v'shinartam levanecha v'yibartavam v'shitecha v'techa u'vlechecha derech u'v'shoklecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha ve'hayu l'toshafot beinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha.
Yashukah. Continue silently, pages 27 through 29. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 32, Malchuto Ratzon Tigulahem, Moshe Bnei Yisrael Chanashirah B'Simcha Rabbah, Yamru Chulam. Yi chamocha va'elim Adonai mi kamocha ne'etar ba'kodesh Torah tehilo osef ראו עיניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני עמו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל מי כמוך באלים אדוני We do smell something burning. It's likely fairly far away, although maybe someone wants to go look outside, but I don't. What was that? Oh, you can't smell with the mask on as well. Your mask is really good, David.
That's better than mine. Someone's barbecuing.
Yeah, it's likely somebody barbecuing, in all honesty, but
it is windy, so.
Yeah, so it could be further away than you think. We're going to be on page 33. Nothing visible. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim down to the kitchen real quick to make sure that everything's okay there. We'll start on this side of the room. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'amidenu Rosalinu Sukkot Shlomecha Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'porei Sukkot Shlomo Lene B'Kol Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise for the Shamru Ben Israel, et Hashem, Lasso, et Hashem, Le'Torah Berit Olam. Beni Beni Israel, Oti Le'olam, Oti Le'olam, Oti Le'olam. Ve'shamru Beni Israel, et Hashem, Lasso, et Hashem, Le'Torah Berit Olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai, et hashamayim, ve'et haaretz, ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael, et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat, le'torah berit olam. U'bayom hasheni, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael, et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat, le'torah berit olam. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Yavani Bracher Tevel Nidol Tevet Hayem Onu Yom Echad Uchaye Yeholim Yisrael Agala Uvizman Kari V'Beru Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Me'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'yiparer v'minaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudsha le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'yimeru. Private Amidah, pages 37 to 48.
Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Raha Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Ki Ata Hu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom Ki Ata Hu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'kol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך שלום ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום ישראל עמך תשים לעולם תשים לעולם תשים לעולם.
Jacqueline, you up for Matbea Tefillah, page 49?
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל אלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון קונה שמיים בארץ מגן אבות בדברו מחיה מתים במאמרו האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו כי בם רצה להניח להם כי בם רצה להניח להם לפניו נעבוד וירא ופחד ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות אל ההודעות אדון השלום מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי ומניח בקדושה ליום לקדוש לעונג זכר למעשה בראשית אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו רצה ומנוחתנו קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך שמנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת Shabbat Kodshecha Ve'anuhu V'Yisrael Mekadashei Shemecha Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat
Kaddish Shalem.
Yikadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabba Ve'omad Yivracher Teviam Lichmachute V'chayechonu V'yomechonu V'chayidahu Beit Yisrael V'agalo V'yiswan Kari V'yimaru Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'al Me'omayra Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbar V'yitrumam V'yanaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalol Shemei D'Kudashah Le'elam Yikol Berchata V'shirata Tishbachata V'nechemata Ta'amiran B'yalma V'yimaru Titkabal Tzol Tamanu V'Utamanu Hol Yisrael Kodama V'Umandu V'yishmaya V'yimaru Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Elenu V'yakol Yisrael V'yimaru Osei Shalom V'Roma V'yasei Shalom Elenu V'yakol Yisrael V'yakol Yoshvei Tevel V'yimaru Amen.
So I have actually 3 short topics tonight to talk about because I want to do a letter, but I also wanted to mention something in association with Ukraine, and I also wanted to mention something in association with my trip to Israel. So I'm doing all 3, so forgive the extra couple of minutes. None of them are long. First, I'll start with the letter. This is addressed from Executive Director of the Synagogue in 1974, Alan Levinson, to Mr. and Mrs. Alvin Bacharach. In case anybody knows them, I don't. They lived on 2 Bellwaver Way in Oakland. I don't know where that is. Have you ever heard of that street? Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bacharach, please accept my sincere apologies for the trouble and inconvenience caused you by the late Yorkside announcement. Our secretary was on vacation this week, and although we very much tried to be on schedule, evidently in at least one case we fell behind. I realize there's nothing I can do to expiate the mistake, but hopefully it will take into cognizance the human factor in the error and pardon us. I'm sorry that this happened, and will do my best to see that it does not occur again. Sincerely, Alan Levinson's Executive Director. This, although the language is perhaps from 1974 and maybe not from 2022, the sentiment and the idea is timeless, right? Yorksites get messed up, especially around here. We have so many, and there's lots of ways to mess it up, and usually it has to do with computer error or a combination of a human and computer error, something we didn't write down correctly at one time, or who knows. But it happens. But when it happens to you, I mean, this is your relative who you've come for specifically to hear this name, and the name might not have been read. Sometimes it's on there, and I might have just passed over it accidentally and read the next name. I mean, who knows what? And I realize, and people in the synagogue who work for the synagogue realize how important it is to you, and we feel terrible. We feel terrible when it happens, but it does happen, and all we can really do is apologize. It's certainly never intentional. But we do understand that this is your beloved that was left out, left off, whatever it is. The only thing I will add to that is, if we do make a mistake, you're welcome to tell me in Shabbat. It will not be fixed for next year. If you tell me in Shabbat, you don't then call or email during the week. I can promise I will not remember when I get back to the office on Tuesday. And so you really have to let us know during weekday hours. So that's the first thing. I wanted to find a letter related to Ukraine, Russia, Soviet Union. I didn't then go through all the files that I spent 2 months looking through to do that. But what I did find was in the minutes. In 1968, in 1970, and 1972, there were, at board meetings, they were discussing the Soviet Union, and specifically Soviet Jewry. In 1968, activism for Soviet Jewry was on the agenda. In 1970, the Ethical Action Committee reported that it was going to be an area of emphasis for them that year. And in 1972, the board discussed, I can't remember what the outcome was, whether they should put Free Soviet Jews signs on the synagogue. And it's not that anyone disagreed with that sentiment, but I imagine that the discussion was around whether we should have any political signs at all, and or the security issues related to putting signs like that on a synagogue. And obviously, I mean, just a brief mention, I mean, it's what's talked about every day. It's, I'm sure, what's on all of our minds at several points. Just tremendous sadness for what is happening in Ukraine, but also, not knowing what to do about it other than to pray, send humanitarian aid, because what would really need to be done involves a lot more bloodshed, and we don't, it's a dilemma for every country in the world as to how they respond to that. That's all I'm going to say on that part. Israel, I'm going to talk just for a second about what's Israel doing in regard to Ukraine, and then I'm going to talk about the services I went to very briefly. Much more tomorrow on all kinds of things. So Israel's in a unique position. First of all, there are tons of Jews from the former Soviet Union in Israel. Many are from Ukraine, many are from Russia, many are from other republics as well. In general, Israeli sympathy is with Ukrainians. And when I was in Tel Aviv last Saturday night, all kinds of people draped out in Ukrainian flags and going to a rally. I didn't go to the rally, but I walked, past lots of people on their way to the rally. And there's tremendous sadness. But Israel's response has been somewhat muted. There has been some condemnation. They have joined in the security resolution against Russia. But there's some who wish they would and could do more. Maybe they should. However, it is a different calculus for Israel than it is for, let's say, us in the United States, since in Syria, Russia is there in Syria along with Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda, and Russia has to coordinate with Israeli army when Hezbollah targets are trying to wipe out Israel. And so if Israel messes up and hits a Russian soldier, or anything like that, or being allowed to operate, it makes a significant difference to Israel's lives. And Israel said one thing, and then Russia actually mentioned, well, we don't believe that Israel has any rights to the Golan Heights. Just in the last couple of weeks, that was their response to that. So it's trickier for them. They also believe two other things. One is that they will take Ukrainian refugees, especially Jewish Ukrainian refugees, and that Israel's existence is necessary in case they have to leave en masse. And they also believe it strengthens their resolve, for better and worse, that no one is going to come to their defense when they are attacked militarily, because other countries don't do that. So when there are negotiations to be made, and they're predicated on the idea, well, the United Nations will protect, or the United States will protect, or NATO will protect, Israel doesn't believe that, and this is further evidence of that. That's just generally not how the world works. People don't have the stomach to send their own troops to these battles. So that's what's going on in Israel as it relates to the Ukraine. Now, services, real quick. I went to 4 services in Israel, Friday night and Saturday morning, twice. First Friday night, I went to my favorite Orthodox synagogue called Kol Rina, which is in a bomb shelter in the Nachlaot neighborhood. Tons of Ruach there, but it's muted now for 2 reasons. One is COVID, but number 2, it's not the it place that it was when we had our sabbatical there in 2011. And my good friend there said he's almost left 3 times in the interim because the politics are so severe. So, it doesn't matter what country, it doesn't matter what denomination. That's what synagogues have. The second Saturday the first Saturday in Jerusalem, I walked over an hour to a Masorti conservative synagogue called Mayanot. There's an Orthodox synagogue called Mayanot also, but this was the Masorti conservative one. Lots of retired American rabbis there. And I got to meet, tell me your name?
Jessica Steinberg.
Jessica Steinberg, who is one of the main voices of the podcast, the Times of Israel podcast, a very deep distinctive voice.
Times of Israel Daily Briefing.
Times of Israel Daily Briefing, which is a podcast.
It is a podcast.
But the Daily Briefing, and Karen was very starstruck that I got to meet her. I was pretty excited too, because I knew how excited that she was going to be. Very nice, standard conservative service with announcements in Hebrew to a congregation that speaks entirely English, but that's often the case.
Practice.
Yeah. All right. Then I went to Tel Aviv, the second Shabbat. I've never spent Shabbat in Tel Aviv, I think, in all my times there. On the Friday night, I went to a conservative Masorti synagogue with friends of mine, former TBA members, Taylor and Amikam. Taylor converted to Judaism. Amikam was Israeli-born. They're both professors in Israel, one of physics, one of literature. They took me to their synagogue they go to, and you sit down, and it's couches more than chairs. It's very, in a room, very Hamish. It's kind of dark. They serve you a cocktail when you sit down.
I want the upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. So it's. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it was quite cool. Very, very nice. Very nice rabbi, and a very hipster kind of place. Saturday morning, I went to the Tel Aviv Great Synagogue, which was about 2 blocks from my hotel, and it's almost. It's bigger than here. They say that it can seat something like 2,000, and they started at 8:30, but I didn't really get moving so easily, so I didn't get there till 9:15. And I really wanted to be there for Shachar because that's when you really see how the synagogue does things. But it's okay because they were out in front of the synagogue begging for the 10th person, and I was it, which is kind of cool. And by the end, there were more people. There were 12. And this gigantic, the Great Synagogue of Tel Aviv, and the person running it said, "It is a problem, but remember, this is not Jerusalem. This is Tel Aviv." So, a lot of secular folks in Tel Aviv. So that was my synagogue experience that I want to share with you. That may be repeated tomorrow. But anyway, that's enough for now. Please rise for the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho v'alvav ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrayei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu nidashta Mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat. L'chaim to life. If you want to place your hands on the heads of anyone you feel comfortable blessing. There, 2 people have their kids here, so for sure. Actually, 3 people have their kids here. Simcha Elohim, Kafraim Chi Menashe, Simcha Elohim, Kesar Rivka Rachel Leah, Yivrecha Adonai V'Yishmerecha, Yer Adonai P'nav Elecha V'Yichunecha, Yisad Adonai P'nav Elecha V'Yasem Lecha Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'teinu l'adon bereshit. Shelo asanu b'kei ha'atzot, velo samanu b'shlepat adama. Shelo samchaltenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'ol avonam. V'anachnu korim, u'mishpatim u'golim, v'nei melech melech hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehuno tishamayim ve'yoser haaretz u'moshe v'karo b'shamayim b'maha u'shkina tuzo ve'gavei meromim hu Eloheinu E'enod emet malkeinu efes ulato Kadatu betorato, Vedanta ayom behashivota, Eleva becha, Ki Adonai Ruach Elohim, Mima'al ve'aretz ve'aretz v'tachat Eino. Kakatu b'tor techadonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz v'yomahu yihyeh Adonai echad Shemo echad. May be seated. As we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends whose yortzeits we observe during the coming week, thinking especially today of Louis Adler, Rachel Elian, Abraham Bain, Philip Baker, Mary Berger, Charles B. Bernstein, Roberta Glassenstein, Anna Cohen, Tilly Cohen, Denise David, Annie Finkelstein, my grandmother Matilda Blue Holtzman, Harry Jenger, Helen Katzberg, Marjorie Kaufman, Celia Kessler, Jules Cohn, Harry David Levine, Arnold Bliss, Bernice Lobel, Judy Mislia, Catherine Muth, Max Pearl, the inimitable Henry Ramick, Clara Ramo, Sydney Sylvia Ross, Louis Rothenberg, Sarah Schmulowitz, Daniel Schuster, Harry Simon, Frederick Harlan Spector, Mabel Stevens, Beatrice Toas, Milton Weintraub, Arthur Yarman, Phyllis Zanglo. We are in the Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period for Jerry Turchin, the husband of Beverly Turchin and father of Leah Bloom, Francisco Martinez Sr., the father of Frankie Martinez, John Daniel Rigo, father of John Rigo, Theodore Finkelstein, the father of Dan Finkelstein. We are in the Shiva for Bernard Polston, the father of Josh Polston. And just today, or perhaps yesterday, I found out about Bay Area great Rabbi Marty Wiener, Rabbi of Sheriff Israel for several decades, including when I was there for a couple of my years, when I was 6 and 7. He was also a high school classmate of my mom's from George Washington High School in San Francisco, and a real role model as a rabbi. I mean, his main thing was his congregation. And I mean, he did all kinds of other things too, but he was really committed to the congregation. And at one time, Sheriff Israel was, in the 80s, became as big as Temple Emmanuel, except because of the way he did things, he never made it feel like a gigantic synagogue. He knew everybody, he knew every family. He was always warm. He will be greatly missed. The memories of all of them are a blessing. We ask all those who are in mourning or observing yortzeit, as well as anyone else who would choose to do so, to rise for the mourner's Kaddish. At this time, it is on page 61. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalmad yivrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayichon v'yomechon v'yedechol beit Yisrael v'agalav v'zman kariv v'yivru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah v'orach le'olam l'omei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei nekudsha barichu le'elam yitkol berchata shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran v'yoma v'yibru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yibru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom v'imromav Uya say shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yibru.
Amen.
May the memory of the people that we come to have to do.
Amen.
Okay, there's a bunch of announcements because we have a lot going on coming up. First, thank you to Josh Melman for streaming our service today. Tomorrow's services are at 9:30. There is no Kiddush lunch, sadly. I'll be talking in detail about the Israel trip. There is a Saturday afternoon bat mitzvah, which is not something we have here, but it's a makeup pandemic bat mitzvah, so it's, that's what it is. So, Mazel Tov to Miriam Bain. While I'm on the Mazel Tovs, I want to wish Mazel Tov to Sloan, Blair, and Idan Deutsch on the birth of their son, Emmett, and Stuart Zangwell was the moil at the bris today, and I was there too. It was a lot of fun, and we sang Emmett, 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 Emmett.
Of course you did.
All right, and so we have that. Now, next Friday, it doesn't say it on our, actually no, we have stuff this weekend, let me start with that. On Sunday at 4 p.m., there is a Zoom session with rabbinical student Elisa Tzipi Silverstein, who taught in the Ukraine, and her parents are from Ukraine, I believe. She's going to give us her insights about what's going on right now within the Jewish community. 4 p.m. Now, next Friday night, it doesn't say so, but I believe that there's a Shara Shabbat here with the 3rd grade. So that is next week, right? So somehow I missed the bulletin. And tomorrow there's Tfilat Yeladim. Next Saturday is Shabbat Mishpacha, as well as Gan Abdallah in pajamas. And it's WTBA Shabbat next Saturday as well. Actually, it does say that. But Purim's coming up too, okay? So very exciting. There'll be the Mishloach Manot delivery day on the Sunday, March 13th. And Wednesday, March 16th, Rock and Roll Purim Parodies, the band. We're going to be here. You wear your masks, but we're doing it. And that was the last sort of large-ish gathering 2 years ago, Purim, remembering it well. And a lot of people, our first stream, a lot of people didn't come because there was already, COVID out there and people didn't know. And a lot of people came specifically because they knew it was like the last time they could go out. So anyway, all that is happening. Lots of very exciting stuff. All right, so we're going to close with Hatikva tonight on page 65. 65. So yes, please rise. And thank you to Garrett Schwartz and family for reading tonight. Shabbat Shalom.